Hi friends, Tracy here from the Sewing Channel. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm skipping my intro today because this video ended up being way too long and I don't want to waste your time. But we are going to learn how to make these super cute fleece hats for the whole family. I take you step by step and I give you all the tips and tricks about that Eloflex stretch thread. And you guys are going to love it. You have to troubleshoot it. I give you the needle size, and all the tips and tricks to get through that troubleshooting of the flex thread. So stick with me today and you'll learn how to make one of these darling little cute corgi butt hats. That fleece, by the way, I got at Joann Fabrics a while ago. I don't know if they still have it. All the other fleece you can find everywhere. It's probably on sale everywhere. Enough talking already. Let's get hat making. All heads are different sizes. My head, when I measured it around, right above my ear area, was 22 inches. If yours is 23 inches, then you're going to add on accordingly, or you can just follow my formula here. You're going to take the circumference of your head, which is 22 inches. Now my stretch of my fabric was 1.25. Stay to the end of this video and I will show you how to check the accurate stretch of any stretch fabric that you have. And all that means is it's the extra give that's within the fibers that do the stretching so it can fit over your head. But we need to account for that when we make any garment of any kind. My stretch on this particular fleece was 1.25. When you subtract that, because you have to subtract that amount of stretch so that it's not too big on your head, mine came to 20.75. Now I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I added in a 1/2 inch. When you add those two together, you are at 21.25. I wanted a tighter fit on my head. So what I did here was I took another whole inch off. If you take a whole inch off, that you end up with 20.25. Now that's my measurement. So what I did was I cut a piece of stretch fleece 20.25 across and then 13.50 up and down. Now this measurement right here accounts for how much fringe we have and when we roll up that bottom rim. I'll go over those measurements as we go through the tutorial. So that's all about the fleece. Today I'm going to use this Coats & Clark Eloflex or Eloflex. I'm not sure how they say it, but it does come in an assortment of different colors, but I didn't have one to match this. It actually stretches so that you don't have to use a zigzag on your knits or your stretch fleece. Now I'm going to show you what I mean here. Let's get my ruler. So I'm just going to wrap that around like that. So if we're right here, I'm showing you 2 inches worth from right there. I'll keep this thumb steady and then I'll pull. Right? That's amazing. I've been practicing and kind of troubleshooting this Eloflex because you just don't put it in your machine and just go. You have to do a little bit of tweaking. So you do have to wind a bobbin with the Eloflex. You wind it with the same exact thread. You don't use any different thread with it. They recommend a stretch needle. Well, I tried a stretch needle and a jersey needle, and let me tell you, it did not work. I was skipping stitches. My machine just did not like it at all. Let me show you what I used here. And I buy these online on eBay. I buy a bunch of them for really super cheap. 130/705H 9014 Organ needles. So that's what it looks like. I didn't skip any stitches with this needle and everything was fine. There is one other thing. You have to take your time when you're sewing with this Eloflex. I actually have to turn my sewing machine to slower because if I go too fast, then things just get out of whack, because you have to imagine that this is definitely stretching within your machine. It's stretching your bobbin and all that. So you'll just want to take your time with that. I really do like using the straight stitch better on fleece with this Eloflex than I do doing a zigzag. When we go to tie off the pom-pom on the top, I don't use the same fleece because it stretches too much and sometimes it'll fray to nothing and it'll actually disintegrate. And the more and more you wash it, you don't want it to disintegrate. So we're going to go ahead and use this to tie off tightly. I use this puncture tool right here with the eye of the needle, which the thread or the yarn goes through nicely. And I actually think I bought these, a pack of them, at Dollar General, if you can believe it. So you might want to check there, but it's not a real pointy tool. It's just enough so that it pokes through the fleece. And I'll show you how we're going to do that because we're going to weave in and out. We're just not going to bunch it together. The first thing you're going to do is find the right side and the wrong side of your fabric. Right sides together. For this particular hat, I've allotted 3 inches for the fringe. You're going to get your little handy ruler out. What you're going to want to do is measure down 3 inches, and if you have a marking tool of some sort, you can just mark that just like that. So we're going to skip the first 3 inches. We're going to start sewing here down about 1/4, half an inch, however much you want. We're going to back stitch there and we're going to back stitch there. Okay, so we're about 3 inches down and now we're just going to follow the edge of our presser foot right there. And we are going to back stitch. Now my speed is at half force. And what I do every now and again is stop and lift up and just kind of readjust because fleece can be a little tricky sometimes. It'll want to suck in there, so you want to lift up every now and again and just kind of readjust. And when you get to the end, you're going to go ahead and back stitch there too, and then go forward again. Cut your threads. The one thing I do on these fleece hats is I do trim off the inside here. Now the reason why I do that is because I don't want this extra bulk in there. So after I've sewn that, I'm going to go ahead and just get close, but be careful because it is so easy to clip these threads. Because you think you're going good, and then boom, you did it. And then I just veer off there because this is going to be part of the fringe area, so you don't want to mess with that. Now I want this seam to be in the back. So we want that to be in the back, like when we're done and we put our hat on. That seam is going to be in the back of our head. So this is the inside of the hat, just like we did the little corgi butt right here, the little corgi butt hat. You'll see here, the seam is on the inside. Okay. Isn't that cute? Oh my goodness, it's so cute. My little granddaughter's gonna look darling in that. You could have the seam and sew it on the outside and then fringe those. So there's a few different ways that you can do it. And I think that's darling as well. And then the seam here is on the outside because it's the children. I didn't want that seam to bother them at all. I don't think it would, but you never know. So that's a couple ways you can do that. We're just going to have mine, because this is going to be my hat, on the inside. No, on this one, I think I allotted 1 inch. Roll up. So this is how we're going to do this. And then you're going to just measure. Now see, that's more than what I want. So now I'm going to just tweak that. I'm going to go about 1 1/4 inches. And you see that right there, just that stretched when it came to the very end. That's why I told you fleece, it does that. So I'm just going to cut that off so that doesn't bother me, because the rest of it should be fine. So we're going to go 1 1/4 inches, and I am going to clip that because, like I said, fleece has a tendency to do its own thing. Now that's all clipped and looking good. Now we're going to take it over to our sewing machine and we are going to sew right along there. And you can do it on the inside or you can go on the outside, is fine too. I find it much easier to go from the inside part instead of turning it back like that and doing like a top stitch, because you can definitely miss that. So when in sewing, and you want to make sure that you catch both of those pieces together. And if you have a free arm on your sewing machine, go ahead and take that off as well so that you can have that hat go around this area right here. I'm going to start in the back. And then again on this one, I'm going to come right inside that so that I kind of keep everything consistent. And we're going to go back. And again, make sure your sewing machine is on slow or slower than what you know. I have it set at half speed actually. You do not want to stretch your fleece when you're sewing it. You just want to lift up and readjust every so often. Lift up and readjust. Because I'm trying to finagle the camera. I don't usually do my videos like this. I usually do voiceovers because we all know I can't sew and talk at the same time, but I'm trying. And again, when you see it start to puff up there a little bit as you're sewing, you're just going to readjust and press down and just fuss with it just a little bit. See how it goes back down then? You don't see that anymore. And you can take these out as you go, or not. See how it's puffing up again? What we're going to do, readjust, pat everything back down, and it's gone. And you're going to back stitch at the end. Make sure everything is nice and knotted in there. Oh, let me show you the stretch. So this is what makes that stretch thread so awesome. See that? It stretches and the stitches do not pop. It's wonderful. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is cut off some of this excess in here, because I don't want that. Let's turn it right side out. All right, this is what we have. Nice and stretchy. Oh, that thread is really nice. I love that they came out with it. Our next step is to put that fringe on there. Now, if you want to at this point, you can try your hat on, hold the top like this to see where your head ends comfortably and how much this goes around your ears. These were my measurements, and that's why I allotted for the 3 inches there. But you could possibly have more or less length. It's up to you. So I'm going to measure 3 inches down. This is like an air water soluble marker, but you can use a pencil or whatever marking tool you have. Nobody's going to see this mark. So you're going to want to go 3 inches. Turn it over. 3 and 3. And then mark it. This part is where my tutorial is different than everyone else's, and I find it much easier than trying to grab all this together. Before we cut this, we are going to weave this in and out loosely at first. I'll show you here. So you're going to go in here first, like off to the side of that back seam. And this tool kind of pokes right through, and then see where that line is, and about every inch or inch and a half, inch and a quarter, or whatever. You're going to go in and out, just like sewing. And you're going to leave a tail right there because that's what we're going to use to tie it off. So about every inch, inch and a quarter, inch and a half, or you could go bigger. It's up to you. So you can just weave in and out, following your line. You're not going to hurt the material by poking that through at all. This step is definitely much better than trying to squeeze it all together. You'll see what I mean here shortly. And then you're going to end up about right there off to where you started right here, and now you're going to end up here. Okay, this is what you have so far. And I even go as far as kind of stretch so that that thread is nice and loose and just hanging. So that's what you should have. Now our next step is the fun part. We're going to cut some fringe. All I'm going to do for that, since that's folded in a little bit, you know, that first one, we'll cut that. Put that out of the way, and then this one, only because those are our seam allowances, we're going to kind of get those out of the way. Remember, I said it was very easy to snip fleece, so be careful. Now I'm going to grab both sections, make mine skinnier. So I'm going to go a little skinnier. Now, if you need to, you can always lay your ruler here. And if you want just 1/4 inch snips, you follow your 1/4 inch. And that's pretty much what I'm doing, is the 1/4. And then we're going to go ahead and pull it like that. You see how that makes it nice, and you don't have to fuss with the gatherings, but it doesn't stop just there. We are going to tie this in a nice knot first. So if you have someone around to hold that, that would be good. If not, kind of have to just fudge through it. And then tight. Now flip it over. And the reason I use yarn too is because it's not bulky. So we want to try to eliminate as much bulk. Fleece is not a thin material. It's a very thick material. And then here, same thing. Hold that down with your finger, and you want a nice tight knot. Just like that. And then we're going to flip it again. And now we're going to knot it a couple times. See how even more of that comes together. Give it another knot. And who knows, it's really hard to get knots out of yarn for sure. I know it's hard for me. So these knots aren't coming out, but we'll do one more just in case. Okay. And then you're just going to snip that off. If I had orange yarn, I would definitely use orange yarn because, you know, it blends, but it's not what I had. So, and there you have your pom-pom. And you see how much better that comes together when you weave that. This is so cute. I can't wait to wear it. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about this fleece hat? What about that Eloflex? Are you guys going to give that a try? Let's chat down in the comments below. As promised, Okay, you're going to take the stretchy part of your fabric long ways, side to side. You're not going to grab the ends. You're going to grab somewhere down and into the fabric. You're going to have about 2 inches in between your thumbs like I do. Anchor your left thumb on the table and then pull with your right thumb. And gauge that with the ruler right above there. Here, I'll go ahead and put it on top of the ruler. And then when you lift it up, it's actually about 1 1/4 inches of stretch. You don't want to pull too hard, but you don't want to pull not enough. So it needs to be somewhere in between. Here, I'll show you again. You anchor the left thumb down and pull, and it's about 1 1/4 inches more than the 2 inches that you had initially. I hope that makes sense. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, take care.